The Jets added even more depth behind star Breece Hall with the addition of Isaiah Davis in the 5th round, the number 173 overall selection in the draft. A stud at South Dakota State. Here's a kid who rushed for 4,548 yards and 50 touchdowns in 46 games. While Carr and Morris will recount their unique scouting experiences in regards to Davis, National Scout Don Green also touched upon the adversity he overcame to get to this point.
Cool story with Isaiah. You know, when I got there, they practiced at I think they practiced at 4:30 or 5 o'clock. And one of the coaches told me, he said he's one of those kids that's, he's always first one to get out, and he goes through his little routine before practice. And you hear that a lot of times, and sometimes it's all talk, right? And so I went out to practice. Sure enough, there's Isaiah Davis out there doing footwork drills. He's got 2 other players with him. And the strength coach told me this is an everyday thing. This is genuine. This guy loves football. He's going to be the last one to leave. And I was just super impressed with that. And the success he's had on the FCS level, again, a winner. They won the national championship. And, he has a crazy stat where, the last 2 years, this young man had over 480 carries and just 1 fumble, and that's a big stat, especially at the running back position. So, super excited about Isaiah. He was a Red Star candidate, which is one of our top guys that fits the category from a character and football player for us, and he's going to be a core special teamer. And he's going to be another good addition to that running back room.
Yeah, he actually was put on my radar a little bit as a freshman. It's kind of an interesting story. So in 2021, they played in the spring because of COVID. So South Dakota State played Sam Houston State in the national championship game. And that was when we were still mostly at home scouting. I was actually at my in-laws' house watching a game with my father-in-law. And that was the only football on really at the time in the spring, right? So I'm watching South Dakota State play Sam Houston State in the national championship game. And there's this big freshman out there, Isaiah Davis. He's returning kickoffs. He's running a ton of explosive runs. That was really the time where I was like, wow, this guy's got something to him. And then been able to follow him for the last, basically that spring of 21. Then they played again in the fall of 21. And then really kind of honing in on him the last 2 years in 2022 and then 2023. So it's interesting because a guy like that, South Dakota State is a big-time FCS program, and they actually had a running back that he split time with those first 2 years, Pierre Strong, who was, I believe, a 3rd-round pick with the Patriots. So for him to be able to step in and compete right away at a program like South Dakota State, where most of their guys redshirt, have to kind of wait their turn, and to be as productive as he was as a freshman is also extremely impressive. Like, this guy really, like I said, I'm sitting there, drinking some beers with my father-in-law, and this guy's jumping off the tape in terms of that. Like, okay, this is a name. I believe I might still have it somewhere, but I just kind of make notes in my phone. There's one that says Isaiah Davis, South Dakota State, interesting, or something like that, going back to it. So, usually at the FCS level, there aren't guys that like, oh, wow, this guy's on my radar as a freshman. But with a guy like Isaiah Davis, just in that moment and how he jumped off the tape, like, that's a guy that you put on your radar right away of, hey, this is going to be an NFL player in a couple of years.
Drew was really excited about this player, and again, watched him over the summer, and came away feeling the same way. Isaiah is another great kid, small town guy, Joplin, Missouri. Him and his family's been through a lot of adversity over their life. He weathered a tornado in Joplin, Missouri when he was 9. Him and his family lost everything, had to overcome that, wound up being Missouri's Gatorade Player of the Year his senior year. Didn't have a lot of offers, was a small school guy. I think he had 2 offers coming out of high school, so he wasn't like highly touted Mr. 5-star or anything, but he's just a guy that's just got great makeup, consistent, tough, everything you want in a Jet. Isaiah Davis is it.
So a lot of that information in terms of like work ethic and things like that, you're going to get from talking to coaches and building relationships with those coaches. And then you really just want to see it like reinforced. Like when I go out to practice and, hey, this guy has tremendous work ethic, and I know it to be true that Isaiah Davis has tremendous work ethic. He's extremely focused. He's driven. And when you're out there scouting it, you want to see it. Like, you want to see that he's out there early to practice. You want to see that he's the first in line out there in reps. You want to see that he's going all out in all of his indie periods. You want to see that he's doing little things off to the side to get better. You want to see at the end of practice that he's got a couple things that he's working on, or he's working on with other guys. I think you're taking the information, and then every time that you have a chance to see a player, whether that's in person to practice, whether that's in an all-star game, Isaiah was at the Senior Bowl, whether that's talking to him at a pro day, again, Isaiah talking to him at the Senior Bowl, you're trying to reinforce all that information and just stamp it in terms of, okay, everything I've heard about this guy, now I've seen it with my eyes, I've heard him talk about it, all of those things are true, and Isaiah checks every single box in that regard. I think the other thing about Isaiah is in terms of his versatility, he's a bigger back, obviously he can run through contact, he's strong. I think the physicality piece of Isaiah Davis is a big thing, not only as a runner, but in pass protection. And I think that transitions really well to being a special teams player for us. He's returned kicks in the past, punts, kickoffs. You go back and you watch him at the Senior Bowl and you watch him play on punt team and you're like, all right, this guy can cover kicks at the NFL level. I think that's where he can come in and immediately help us as a special teams player.
Isaiah's got great balance and body control and got good quickness and strength and power to him. So those were the things that I really liked about him. He was again, he was my Red Star for this year, so I can't speak enough on him. He's a great, phenomenal person.
Some background there on the Red Star. Dom Green's Red Star player, of course, was former South Dakota State standout Isaiah Davis. As Jets senior football advisor Phil Savage told us earlier on the podcast, the tradition is every scout should be able to nominate a Red Star from their area or group of schools. That is a player who checks every box from an intangible standpoint.